For me, I work better at my own leisure. Again, that's why I'm an entrepreneur. It's very hard for me to work for somebody. In the mortgage business, right, you're self-employed, but by the laws, you have to be a wage earner. So it's still 100% commission. It's 100% commission hanging my license somewhere. I still work for myself, right, because nobody's paying me to be there. I work better under those terms. I did not realize that until I was the first one in the office and I was the last one to leave.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and make sure to give us a follow because I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing guests I got coming on this year. Without further ado, let's get right into this one. Thomas, for anyone who hasn't had the pleasure or the opportunity to get to know you yet, brother, man, tell us your elevator pitch. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Thomas Bepko, and I feel like I'm an entrepreneur of many types. I started my whole career. I learned everything in the mortgage business. I learned everything real estate. I actually learned a lot about life in the mortgage business. So I pay homage all the time, and I'm grateful for my mortgage career. Yeah. Then I became a real estate broker, and I tell the story a lot. Being in real estate, being a real estate broker was my way out, right? Because mortgages, when you hear mortgage, you're like, oh, God, that job must suck. It's not. It's actually the best career in the world, but it's not for everybody. When I became real estate broker, I became a better loan officer, right? And I was able to help more people on both sides of the ball. And then fast forward there, I started investing. I invested early in my career, and I learned what not to do in investing. But what I did was I continued with mortgage, then I got into real estate, and now I'm an investor, right? So everything real estate, but I am an entrepreneur. I like to look at everything, and I like to help a lot of people, right? I like helping people. That's not a pitch. It's just what I do genuinely, and today, hopefully we can help somebody with their career, with their life. And that's my goal of today's podcast. I want to be able to help somebody.
So I love starting off this way, man. Take us back in the time machine, man. What was little Thomas like? What was it like growing up in your household? I think you're from CT, right? If I'm not mistaken. What was that like, man?
So I'm from Fairport or Bridgefield, right? My parents were divorced, deadbeat dad. I was born in DC, and I moved to Bridgeport with my grandparents and my mom. Mm-hmm. And my mother was a single mother. And, it's funny is I didn't even know there was a letter T in the word mortgage. I had no idea what a mortgage was because we lived in my grandmother's house. And then when my mom got her shit together, when I was 15, she bought a house. But I'm like, my mom makes $25,000. How do you buy a house that was $90,000 in Fairfield? And my mother grew up in Bridgeport and wanted to get me into Fairfield school systems. So she did whatever she could to get me out of Bridgeport and into the Fairfield school system. So I got in the Fairfield school system young. And I went through the Fairfield school system. I wasn't a college guy. I wasn't a school guy. I fucking hated school, to be completely honest. I want people to people that work with me, people who I help, whatever your why is, like just stick with it. Whether you're a handyman, whether you're a janitor, whether you're an agent, whether you're an influencer, as long as you give 100% and you do not stop, no matter what life takes at you or what life does to you, just have the goal and don't stop until you reach it, right? And then come up with another goal. And school wasn't in my cards. I went to the alternative schools. I actually dropped out at 15 or 16 because I figured you could. I couldn't get in trouble with dropping out at 16 at the alternative school. I made a lot of bad decisions younger. I hung out with the wrong kids. My mother told me, you hang with trouble till you're going to get in trouble. Mog, you don't know what you're talking about. These are my boys. They'll go to war for me. They will die for me. And you know what they did for me? They got me in more trouble.
Leave you out to dry.
Right. You couldn't tell me that as an adolescent, so I ended up, taking the wrong path. My grandmother passed away when I was 18, and the one thing she wanted me to do was to graduate high school, dude. So you know what I did? I don't know what. I hated school. I went back to another program in school, and I graduated. I did 5 years in high school. I did 2 summer schools, and I was able to graduate. And to this day, I still have nightmares that I didn't graduate high school, but I did. But I worked since I was 14 years old, man. I liked money, right? I had 2 jobs. I would set up the pizza place. I would be a line cook. And then when I was 16, I got my driver's license and I would deliver. So I would set up in the morning, get those hours in, then I'd deliver at night. And that's one of the keys to being a good broker in Fairfield County is because I know the streets I was driving pizza around. in Fairfield and Bridgeport and Westport. So I understood the streets and I understood like the house. And I was like, damn, bro, these are nice houses. You know, I wanted to live one day in these houses in Greenfield Hill, Fairfield. And guess what? Now I live there, ironically. And, you know, that's because I would drive around and dream and I'd set the goal like, dude, I'm going to get one of these houses one day making $4.50 an hour plus tip, right? Subconsciously, I was coming up with a goal. And, you know, there's a lot of drugs and alcohol in my story. Like, I'm just going to keep it real. You know, my dad died of alcoholism. He's an abusive alcoholic. My mother cleaned her shit up, right? Me, I got into trouble early with drugs and alcohol, right? Alcohol was my thing. You know, I drank a lot, man. I partied. I partied a ton, dude. And, you know, my mother got sober. When she bought that house, she got her life together at 15. She got sober. Me, that's when I started messing with weed and then messing with alcohol. And one thing my mother told me is, dude, you need to put down the alcohol. Don't drink, don't drink. Guess what? One of those other things I should have listened to back in the day, and I didn't. Now I got 13 years sober. I haven't drank in about 13 years, but we'll get to that in the story. You know, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work, and I wanted to get out of Bridgeport and Fairfield so bad because this is when people were. It was in the 90s, bro, and the 90s were a lot different than now. And the late 90s, early 2000s, I had to get out, dude. I joined the Army, right? And I got as far away from Bridgeport. So I moved back to Bridgeport after high school, moved back to Bridgeport, and I wanted to get out, dude. So I joined the military to get out of here, you know, and I still had that entrepreneurial spirit. The Army wasn't for me. I wasn't going to re-enlist. I wasn't going to ever do it again. I don't regret it, but I'll never do it again. Never saw wartime, but I did train. I went infantry. I saw the cool videos. I did all the top training exercises. God willing, I did my time. I got out. I didn't have to serve any wartime. And when I got out, I immediately got into the mortgage business. I was lucky, right? I ended up, I'm like, oh, well, I can go to college now. Dude, I barely graduated high school, right? Homie, I was not going to college. I moved back to Bridgeport, went through one winter, started hanging out with those friends again that I got out of the Army. I said, peace. I went on an entrepreneurial journey with my best friend at the time who lived in San Francisco, and we started a clothing line. And I was working 3 jobs, dude. The fashion business, I had a taste in the fashion business. That's super competitive. I'm not really artsy. I kind of have the eye for it, right? But I was still that entrepreneurial spirit. I was working 3 jobs. I was delivering flowers. I was bartending, waiting, serving, bussing tables at night, and I was selling hats out of our bag because I was an entrepreneur and we started a fashion company and I didn't want to do T-shirts. I had these little wallets and I had these accessories and these hats that I was making, and the hats started to stick. So the hats I was selling out of my bag while I was delivering flowers and talking to people at the bar trying to get my hat company off the ground. And I remember I made one connection. I was dating a girl and she was like, dude, you got to try mortgage. I'm like, what is mortgage? I'm like, I didn't really understand how my mom could afford a mortgage. We didn't make any money. She got her shit together. She bought a house. And I'm like, dude, what is a mortgage? I didn't even know it was MORTGAG. And I say, when I bring in new loan officers, I'm like, spell mortgage, right? You don't even know there's a letter T in the word mortgage, and there is. And she's like, you got to meet these guys. They're young, they're successful. She's like, they're driven like you, but you're working 3 jobs, and these guys got Maseratis, BMWs, and Benzes. And I'm like, I mean, dude, I don't even got a car, and I can't even afford it in San Francisco, dude. I got 3 jobs, and San Francisco was still one of the most expensive cities in the country, right? So I got the interview, and I'll never forget. I don't tell this story much, and hear this out. I was so nervous the night before for my interview. I walked to like this deli that was open and I got some bad food, dude. I got food poisoning the day before my interview to my mortgage career. And this is kind of how my life goes, right? Like life always throws these super crazy challenges at me before that pivotal point in my life where it changed my life and being in mortgage. I bought a 3-piece suit from a thrift shop for like $5. It was a 3-piece suit. I had a white shirt on. My mom sent me a tie from TJ Maxx because I didn't really have the money for a tie. I was still working, but rent was so expensive and lifestyle was so expensive. I didn't have much cash flow. Had my tie from TJ Maxx. My mom shipped from Bridgeport, right? And then I had a 3-piece suit on. I got from a thrift store in downtown San Francisco. And dude, I'm so sick. I'm throwing up on the way to the interview. And I'm like, dude, I'm not making this interview. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm going. I'm going to show up sick. I'm going to give it my all. And for me, like, as an entrepreneur, I give everything my all. You know, I could be the addict and the alcoholic in me, but I give everything 150%, dude. If I'm not in it, I'm not doing anything. But if I'm in it, I'm giving you my all. So I showed up. these dudes are like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, dude, honestly, like, this is an excuse. Like, I think I got food poisoning. I was in San Francisco. I ate something bad. He's like, all right. He opens the door, and it's like a boiler room. And I'm in San Francisco in Union Square at the top of Union Square, and there's this boiler room, and I'm super intimidated. I'm like sick and woozy. I think I just like got my head rushed in because I was so nervous. Like that got rid of my food poisoning. I was nervous sick, right?
Yeah.
And one dude, sales manager, interviews me. Second guy interviews me, and now the owner comes out. I'm like, oh boy, I'm fucking shaking at this point. He's like, he looks at my resume. He's like, you do all this stuff. Like, how long is it going to take you to learn mortgage? I said, dude, when can I get a paycheck? And he goes, you're hired. 100% commission. I'm fucking hired. I don't even know there's a letter T in mortgage. And I go, but dude, like, I'm really sick right now. Like, I start tomorrow. He's like, yeah, come back tomorrow. So I had the food poisoning. I started, and I haven't quit mortgage. And that was in like October of 2005.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be coming up 18 years this October, 19 years. I mean, I'm coming up on 20 years, man.
Yeah. That's
So,
amazing. That's amazing.
um,
You have a really big story. I wanted to try and decompart a couple of it because it's a
I,
lot. So you have
it's
you
a
grew up
lot,
single
bro. I
mom,
got a
right?
good story.
Yeah. So I think it's something that resonates with a lot of people. So like for me, I grew up in the projects, right? With 9 of us in a 2 bedroom, right? We're still on Section 8 to this day, right? It's food stamps, EBT, all that stuff, you name it, whatever. We didn't have a car growing up, walking everywhere. Like my dad was also an alcoholic. My mom suffers from depression and anxiety. And no one around me really knew like pretty much anything about exact mortgages, anything about money, finances, credit card. Like none of that stuff was talked about. That's all.
Exactly.
Thank God for YouTube University because man, that saved my life, yo. YouTube, books, and podcasts, man. But I want to ask you because
That shit you
despite
hear about on the bus.
yeah, man, yeah. I wanted to ask you too, because I'm really curious as to like figure out where your head was at. Because despite you going through the upbringing that you went through, a lot of people could have pulled the victim card and been like, man, why God has it out for me? The system is set up against me. I'm not meant to succeed. Like but you was grinding throughout that whole process. Like, what kind of helped you to like have that mentality? Like, yo, I got to get this money. I got to get to it.
Because I knew that money was my only way out, bro. And as fucking narrow minded as that sounds, right? Like, yeah, I grew up on Section 8. They didn't, my friends didn't know my wife's a therapist. She tells me I suffer from poor kid from Fairfield syndrome, right? Because I was around a lot of kids that were in even upper middle. We weren't lower class. I was lower middle, right? I live in apartments, dude. We didn't have a house. I told you, we eventually got the house and I got out. And it was just the challenge, bro. And I just wanted what other people had, but we didn't have a handout. And I was in therapy and psychology and like all this shit young, right? Like I had my counselors at counselors. I had shrinks. They always thought there was something wrong with me. And I'm like, I just knew how to work and I knew how to hustle, but I was always in the people business. I like to connect. I like to
Hmm.
connect with people. I would talk. I was outgoing, but I knew that if I could work, there was some way, if I just kept my head down, and I stay consistent with something's gonna pop, right?
Yeah.
And what's funny is you asked me that. I helped a dude today. Look, in the mortgage business, I'm like, dude, you know what you do when you get pissed? You fucking make money, right? You work and you talk and you hustle your way out. I don't know anywhere else to do it. Like you could sit there and feel bad and play the victim. I didn't want to play the victim. I wanted the fuck out. So if I sat there and I felt sorry for myself, guess what I wasn't doing? I wasn't working my way out. I mean, I
Hmm.
joined the military to get out, and that didn't work, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, the army didn't do it. The government can't do it. I got arrested. I got locked up a few times. I was young, dude. I was stupid, right? But I realized later in life, like as a young kid, you don't realize the opportunities you have. And even before I joined the army, dude, one of my good friends, he's like, bro, you're joining the army? He's like, why don't you just do real estate? Bro, my boys are making money doing real estate. Like, I'll show you, I'll connect you. I'm like, real estate? I'm like, my great aunt's best friend's an agent. She's like 70. I'm like, I don't want to do that shit. Right? Fast forward, mortgage and real estate is what I was doing as soon as I got back. And I don't know, man. I just knew one thing, that I could work my way out, dude, and hustle my way out. And that's what I did. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. That's just my story. To this day, I'm still hustling my way out. I don't know where I'm getting out of, but I'm still pushing. I didn't feel sorry for myself. Look, I
Yeah.
had started to play the victim. Anybody can take. That's the easy way, right?
Yeah.
For me, I like the challenge. Like, I like when people talk and say, "Oh, dude, he's never going to be anything. He dropped out of school." You know what that does?
Yeah.
That drives me, bro. The
Yeah.
hate pushes me. And we'll fast forward into my sobriety and we'll get into that. But I knew that I could work. And as narrow minded as it was, I knew how to work and I knew how to connect with people and I knew how to talk, right? You couldn't teach me that in fucking Fairfield High School or the co-op or Bullard Havens Tech, right? Fairfield Prep. Like, you can't teach me that, right? What I did was I wanted to hustle my ass out. I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to be different. I was always different. If everybody's going left, I was going right. If everybody's saying do this, I'm like, you know what? I'm going the other way because that's just who I was. I don't know if it's a good thing. I don't know if it's a bad thing. But I saw that, look, if I wanted to buy Tommy Hilfiger clothes when I was 15 years old, what did I do? I had to work. If I wanted a brand new car to deliver pizza, I wanted the system in my shit in the 90s. I wanted a new place. What I could do? I could work. So if I got to get 3 jobs, if I could hustle, I can make money and something's going to pop,
Yeah.
right? And I can meet somebody and it's not what you know, it's who you know. And when I told you, when I got in the mortgage business, it was because of who I knew. God willing, God's thrown me life has thrown me bad shots. It's thrown me great shots, but I've taken advantage of every opportunity that I've had. And you need to take advantage because you don't know. This podcast could change my life, right?
Mm.
This podcast could change your life. Something can happen. We can be able to help the right person and we can get the message and we can help somebody. And that trajectory can change at the drop of a dime. So why not give your all to everything? And that's my story and that's me.
100%. I agree with that 100% because one of the best things that I learned is like you don't have to be correct, man. You just have to be directionally correct. As long as you're moving in the right in the right direction, things will figure it out and pan out and all in
That's
the right
it.
thing. But like if there's another thing that I love, Russell Brunson, he talked about this one time. He was like, "Man, are you a good steward of the ideas that God blesses you with?" Because all these ideas that we get aren't ours. It's ideas that we're being blessed with. And so, like, when we don't act on something and 5 minutes later, 5 months later, someone else down the block, that has that same business opportunity you thought about months ago, it's because that idea was never yours to begin with. You fumbled that opportunity when it was given to you. And a lot of people don't act on the ideas and their gut feelings when they need to. And the people that do, such as yourself, man, it's like it just compounds and compounds to get to where a place you're at now. It's like I bet you can't even recognize that you used to be way back when. It's a whole new
I
person.
don't.
So I want to ask you. So you said around 2005. That's when you got the mortgage job, and that's when your life really started to pivot, man. So take us through that time period. So after you got over your food poisoning, man, what was it like starting off in 100% commission? A lot of people nowadays, it's like if they're not getting paid minimum wage, at least they don't want it. They don't want to be at stake for if you don't catch anything, you don't eat, right? Because that's how it used to be, man. You catch what you kill, and
You
that's what
you
you
eat
get.
and you eat
That's
what you
how you,
kill. You eat what you
yeah.
kill, right?
And
Just
so,
like back in the day, right? If
hmm
the animals didn't eat, or the gorillas or apes, wherever we came from, we didn't eat. We didn't kill anything. We didn't eat, right? If we couldn't
yeah,
pull it from the ground. For me, I work better at my own leisure. Again, that's why I'm an entrepreneur. It's very hard for me to work for somebody else.
hmm
In the mortgage business, right? You're self-employed, but by the laws, you have to be a wage earner. So it's still 100% commission. It's 100% commission hanging my license somewhere. I still work for myself, right? Because nobody's paying me to be there. You feel me?
yeah,
I
yeah,
work better under those terms. I did not realize that until I was the first one in the office and I was the last one to leave. The top guy, he had Ferragamo belt, he had Ferragamo cufflinks, he had Ferragamo shoes, he had a Ferragamo tie, he drove a Maserati. What did I do? I sat with that motherfucker and I learned mortgage. Why? Because he was the top person in that company and I wanted what he had. So why not just go to him and say what he says and do what he tells me to do and be his little apprentice and then take what I learned from him and then make it my own. I remember in September, October, whenever I started, that in mortgage, it's about what's your year to date, what is your year to date on your W-2, how much money you make. And I remember my first goal was like, dude, I had no money and I was 100% commission and I couldn't work the other jobs, bro. So I had no income coming in. right? I had to be at my phone on the phones from 9 to 9. I was single, and guess what? People pick up the phone from after work, right? And this is also in 2005. We were on the internet. We were buying leads. Technology was a lot different. And I remember I had the phone up to my ear, smiling and dialing, making 150 to 200 phone calls. But when I get upset, I would make more phone calls. I would try and connect with more people. And I didn't leave till I got a deal. It, I made this promise to myself. I need to get a deal a day. If I can get a deal a day, I'm closing 30 deals a month. And my first goal was I need to make $100,000. That was my goal. And it was a short year. My 4 months, that first 4 months, I made $60,000, $70,000 in 4 months. And my year to date at the end of the year, it wasn't 100 grand. But I said, that was my first couple months. I had to. Now I'm going into my new year. I need to hit that 100 grand. And I made 150,000 my first year. And I never
Wow.
turned back. My first full year, I made that 60, 70 in those first 4 months, but that wasn't a full calendar year. My first calendar year, I just sat there and I made as many connections and helped as many people so I can make 100 grand. And I made 150,000.
Yeah,
And I
that
never
is.
looked back.
So let me ask you. So from someone who grew up not having much, from someone who grew up, as you said, in an apartment on that Section 8, man, what was that mindset wise when like you checked your bank account and you seen the six figures? Like, what was that time period like, man? Because a lot of times we get in our own way from believing that people like us can make that much money. So it's like, what helped you kind of overcome that? Because sometimes we self sabotage along the way, especially once we start seeing that we could actually accomplish it. It's like, oh man, it's getting there, and we shoot ourselves in the foot. And so, like, what was it like that may helped you to get over
It
that threshold?
Let me tell you, it felt very good, right? But it was only fulfilling my ego.
Yeah,
So then I start overspending, bro. I'm young. I'm 24, 25. Now I'm making 250, $300,000. Like what? Live in San Francisco, single. I got the Benz, I got the range, I got the watch, right? I was partying, right? And my thing was, I told you before, I started drinking too much, right? So I
mm-hmm.
would make a ton of money and I'm spending it recklessly. For the listeners, let me tell you, you need to invest yourself. You need to spend your money wisely. I made a lot of reckless investments. I always made investments. I always knew, like, dude, I could turn 10 into 20 and 20 into 40 and 40 into 80, and I can buy houses and I can flip and I can do this. I always had that mentality. The problem was I was too young and I wasn't experienced, and I didn't have the right mentor or the right coach at that time. I had a bunch of idiots, right? And I left to my own laurels. I had no spirituality, I had no God, I had no gratitude, right? I had none of that stuff. I was a lot of ego. So the money was good, but it started fulfilling this ego. I'm like, bro, dude, I'm making money, I'm living the life, I'm cool as shit, right? Making reckless investments. 2008 hit, 2009, the financial crash, okay? I got hit over the head like a ton of bricks. I didn't know what hit me. But what I knew how to do is I knew how to drink and I knew how to be reckless, and my drinking and my money spending and my bad habits got out of control. From where there,
Mm,
I had to make a decision. And I remember I came to a turning point in my life, and I was in California and I was broke, dude. I was still working, but I was mentally broke, spiritually broke, financially broke, and I was boozing too hard, bro. I was boozing too hard for where I had to make a decision of I got to find God and get help, or I got to go down this path and die.
mm-hmm.
Like I was like drinking in the morning, like very, very, very bad. In and out of rehab, in and out of jail. Like it was bad, bro.
Damn.
And all because of drinking. And I'm like, dude, I need to make a decision. I can do anything I want. And I had tried Alcoholics Anonymous, and Alcohol AA saved my life. And there's this story in the big book where it's only in the last analysis is where he may be found. And I'm not a big preacher. I don't go to really church. I have my own relationship with my higher power. But I remember NBA basketball game. I embarrassed myself in LA. I was so wasted and broke. I was fronting, dude. I so full of ego. I had no money. I was acting like I was cool. And the market crashed, but all I knew how to do was party and drink. And I wasn't doing anything about fixing my career, and I had a lot of bad debt, and I had a lot of investment properties, and I was a mess, bro. I called myself a dressed up mess. And I remember I was crying on the bathroom floor one time, begging God for help. And at that moment, my life changed, and I got sober, and I put down the alcohol. I did a lot of work through Alcoholics Anonymous, through therapy, through helping a lot of people. I don't want to give the war stories, but that decision changed my life forever. And that was, it took me a little while to get some time together. So I would do like 30 days sober, and I would go drink. I'd do like 2 months sober. I'd do like 2 days. I'd do 2 hours. And that took me about a year to really get my sobriety together. And that was, 13 years ago. This March will be 13 years of no alcohol. And I'm turning my life over to a care greater than myself. And now it's about, who can I help? Gratitude, right? What do I have? I got to be grateful for what I have. I was very scared of losing my drive. Like, dude, like I'm gonna change my life, like change my personality. That hustle mentality, that never went away. That was all bullshit, right? It got better. My life got way better. Take the alcohol out. I still got the grind, still got the hustle, but I can help other people, right? I can help other people with their career. I can help other people save their lives. Like that meant more than the commas and the checks.
Yeah, no,
My kind of
100%.
thing was I would take the dudes that needed the help. They had some issues. I brought them in the career. I brought a lot of the loan officers in Yellow Brick. We worked a lot of those guys that wanted to change their lives, and that's how I built my teams. A lot of them are still with me today. They didn't know those word letter teen mortgage. They didn't know how to do real estate, right? And that was my pivot in my career, and being able to help people on their journey or with their career or save their life, that meant more to me than anything.
No, that's extremely like touching, man, because it's at that rock bottom, right, where I guess all major, rocky stories happen,
Bro,
right?
it's true. I hit it, bro, crying like a baby, begging God for help. Like a 35, what was I, 35? 30, what am I? No, I'm 44 now. I got sober at 31, 32, right? Because I had about 2 years when my son was born.
Yeah,
And my kids will never see me drink, homie. Like, that's just not an option, right? They don't know
yeah,
that guy. Nobody, only me. I'm not, I don't run from that guy. I've done a lot of work. I've made my amends. I've fixed my life. I've turned it all around. I've turned that ego into helping people, right? And then the money will come, right? The money's going to come, right? Because I had the TJB, the Thomas Joseph, that young cat that always wanted to hustle, wanted to prove everybody wrong. I'm still here, dude. Then that's
mm,
one of the ways, like I'm telling you, it got so hard to get sober, dude. I didn't get it. And I had that rock bottom, and I'm like, I got back to that place. Shit's real good. I can't forget where I came from, dude. I can't
yeah.
forget that little room of me crying as a little boy, dude, of like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, I'm not normal. I'm not like these kids I'm hanging out with, and I don't have what they have, but I'm gonna get a job and I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna stay sober. When people say this dude, he's never gonna stay sober. Okay, watch. And that's the message. Like that challenge and like, dude, that maybe that's a bad part of my ego, but if somebody challenges me, I'm not giving up till I prove that fucking dude wrong. And those
Yeah.
are facts.
There's an Alex Hormozy quote I love. He says, "Use what you got." Right? Use what you got. And for me, I resonate with that a lot too. So back in middle school, I used to do like backflips and stuff like that. Me and the guys, we used to go to the park. You just start flipping off of slides and
Yeah.
swings and whatever. And I was always the follow up guy. Like once one of my boys did a flip and landed it, like I'm like, all right, say I won't. Say I won't. Say I won't right now hit this backflip off this fence and land that joint right
It's gonna be
clean. Like
better than his. Watch.
yeah. And so it's like after you say that I won't like 4 or 5 times, my ego flare up a little bit and then she's
Yeah.
like boom, I just jump and throw myself back in. I said for better or for worse, right? That helped fuel me. That helped to push me and keep me going. And I think a lot of people try to downplay where we get the energy from. And as long as it's a positive spin that you can have on it, like I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter where the energy comes from because it definitely does. Because there's some things that are like dangerous to mess around with, and it's like but like if something like this where it's like if someone just challenging you, I feel like for me a lot of people try to stray away competition and downplay competition. It's like man, that's
Let's
helped
do
me
it.
be the best I've ever been. Like without competition, and it's not competition in a way where it's like I think there's like a that underlying competition where there's like underlying hatred and envy and jealousy. Like that's I think what people should stay away from. But like healthy competition, man,
Nothing
that's
wrong with
gonna
it.
help me. Yeah, has helped me fuel through and push through so many. Especially, I can just think of so many times in football. I just like running alone. I would like die running alone. But you have me do bear crawl suicides. But as long as I'm with the team, man, I'm going. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
if I'm with the
You're
team,
hold
I'm going.
yourself accountable with the team, or the
Yeah,
team
no,
holds you accountable for it.
100%. So now let me ask you. So now the pivot, and you kind of like transition a little bit. So you had this, epiphany moment where you started to bring your life around, and it was a journey. You said it took you a couple year process to really get your sobriety in check and really start, get that handled. But it's like after you got that under control, after you got your ego, not entirely checked out, but for the most part, you started to work on yourself. What was like the point where you decided to enter into real estate? So you already had the mortgage thing going, but like what helped you to get that going?
So remember, I said I would never move back to Connecticut. Remember, so I joined the military to get out of Bridgeport.
Yeah,
As soon as I couldn't get sober in California, so guess where I moved? Right back
back
to
to
Bridgeport.
Connecticut.
Right back to Bridgeport. And in hindsight, like, look, dude, that was like the worst fear of mine, because then I started feeling real sorry for myself. I'm like, dude, I'm a loser. I'm back in Bridgeport. Like, what am I doing? I mean, dude, I lived on my boy's couch, right? So I got sober, and I'm like, dude, I've got my life together. I'm gonna be home, because I knew I can rebuild home. I didn't want to, but I needed to stay sober, and my sobriety counted. That was first.
Hmm.
Mortgage was here. I knew I was a good loan officer, dude. I knew what I had to do, but I had to get my mindset right. So I
Yeah.
moved home. I went in, and I'll never forget. So this is when Wells Fargo had just came to the East Coast, because before that, through 2008, 2009, they used to be Wachovia, and then Wells Fargo ended up purchasing them, and then they moved the mortgage company to the East Coast. And I'll never forget, dude. I was about a couple months sober, and I had my mom driving me around for job interviews. I'm in my suit. I went to different mortgage companies, and I pulled over at Wells Fargo. I was like, Ma, just drop me off over here. She's like, what? It's like there was a Wells Fargo mortgage on Summer Street in Stanford. Wells Fargo home mortgage. I went in. I went in with my suit. I said, hey, is the manager here? She's like, no, he doesn't work here. He's got other branches. I'm like, do me a favor. Give him my resume. Tell my name is Thomas Bepko. And what's his name? Jim Moran. And I didn't know. I tried to access him. And that woman that was at the front desk gave it to Jim Moran. And this guy, Jim Moran, called me about 2 days later. I got the call. I was like, hey, he's like, Thomas Bepko? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you've been in mortgage, but you're on the West Coast. You grew up around here. What's your story? I said, look, let me sit down, put me in front of somebody, and I'll tell you everything. He goes, you know what I'm going to do? I got a guy in Fairfield that you might be a good fit with. The guy in Fairfield hired me on the spot. Hired me on the spot. I mean, I'm like, dude, I knew connections. I knew where I'm here. I'm like, I have a little bit of business in New York and Connecticut, but it's not going to take me long. I grew up here. I'm like, I go to the bagel store, go to Bagel King downtown Bridgeport, and I'll pick up a deal. Right. And he's like, okay, he hired me on the spot. Fast forward about 9 months later, I'm not a Wells Fargo guy. Okay. They fucking fired me. Wells Fargo fired me for bullshit. My mother thinks, because I came in, I blew the doors off. I was their top producer in like 4 months, and I was causing waves, and I just wasn't a corporate guy. I ended up going to Total Mortgage because Scott Penner, who's now the CEO of Total Mortgage, owned a title company that I was sending my title orders to at Wells Fargo. We became friends. It's not what I knew, it's who I knew. And I'm like, dude, they fired me for no reason. I ended up going back and suing Wells Fargo, getting my money that they owed me, but they like got rid of me for no reason. And that's another episode. I'll tell you that. But I learned a ton at Wells Fargo. They taught me the real way to do mortgage. They put me through training. They put me through schools. And I said, well, I don't need to do it at Wells Fargo. I could go do it for myself. Right. So I ended up hooking up with Scott. I came to Total Mortgage, and Total Mortgage was an internet call center. And I remember I said I was on the phones all day long, and I knew that game very well. So now I could take leads and take what I learned at Wells Fargo and go attract a real estate partner, an agent, and give them a lead. And then in return, they'd feed me more business, because I'm taking leads. I can get a pre-approval and I can give it to the top agent. Who's doing that? Well, loan officers taking a pre-approval and going to a top agent and say, here's the deal. Just make sure you use me the mortgage. And they'd send me. So I started building fast. And I'm like, hold on, this could work. Well, why am I giving it? Because I was giving to the agents I was giving it. They weren't giving me any business back. They were just taking my deals and not feeding my family, not doing. I'm like, whoa. This ain't working. So hold on. I could generate a client to come to me for a pre-approval I had my real estate license. So I could give it to a realtor and come back and I could build something. So that's how I started Yellow Brick. Well, loan officer, a lead, and a dream. Right? Then my partner now, who's president, he has a different story, but his name is Alan Stewart, really good friend of mine. And he came to do mortgage. I said, no, let's get your real estate license because I have a way to generate leads. We have the same mentor. My mentor is actually coming on my podcast, my next episode, which I'm really excited about. His name is Michael Barbro. When I came home, I said, who do I need to connect with? I need to connect with the agents who are doing the most business that I know, just the same way I learned mortgage. Just connect with the top people you know. And I connected with Mike, who was a broker, and he taught me real estate while I'm taking leads. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to give him the mic now. I'm going to give him my own people. So then we ended up building Yellow Brick Real Estate. I started Yellow Brick with my partners now, and we generated leads, and we were giving them to our new agents. And we had rookie agents doing 30 deals in their first year. And in real estate, you could see it. It's all public data. We're like, yo, how are these young guys less than 1 year of business doing 30 deals? I was able to generate a lead. So that's how we started Yellow Brick. And then social media came into play about 2-3 years. And then I started posting content, posting video, then putting it on the broker page. And then we got our agents to do video and do social and teach them how to post. Then I started a podcast, right? So that's been my goal. Now I'm executive vice president of sales at Total Mortgage. So I'm the corporate guy at Total Mortgage. I'm the broker and one of the owners and CEO of Yellow Brick Real Estate, who I'm the founder and one of the originals that started and came up with this idea for being able to give a lead to an agent.
Yeah.
That's how I started. And that's my career in a nutshell.
I mean, you have. We might have to bring you on for like another episode, man. Because man,
I got a lot. I know I got a lot. But it's good value. I can help a lot of the listeners, especially the dudes with their backs against the wall that don't know what the fuck they want to do. They need to stay consistent and being disciplined. They need to figure out their goals. They need to write them down. They need to go get it. And they need a coach. And they need somebody to push them through the hard times. I didn't have a coach, dude. I didn't have people to push. I had God and I had my that little boy that wanted out. And thank God I had him. Right? Without him, I wouldn't be anywhere. And that's facts, dude. No matter what, you keep pushing, you're gonna fucking break something. You're gonna break your way into somewhere. You just don't stop. And it's what you do with the life's issues. You don't feel sorry for yourself. We're here to accept. I was here to accept that I was an alcoholic. I was here to accept my dad was an abusive alcoholic and a fucking idiot, right? I was here to accept the hand I got dealt. But it's what I did with that. It's what I did with those opportunities. If I'm going to be, you know what a billionaire told me once? Bro, I've chased a dream with everybody. I met the richest guy in the world from Singapore, one of them, Mr. Chan. I was able to sit with a billionaire. You know what he told me? You want to make money? Don't have money. To my face. I said, what? Yeah. Keep your fucking back against the wall. Keep your back against the wall. Go out and buy shit. Put yourself in debt. Leverage debt. And I'm like, wow, now you see all the influencers and these investors. This dude told me this 5 years ago when I was starting Yellow Brick. Yellow Brick's like 6-7 years old, but I was about a year in and I wanted to get big. And I had a billionaire tell me, don't have money. You want to make money? Don't have money. I said, that makes fucking sense.
Yeah. It makes a whole lot of sense. It's like
you got to hustle. You got to hustle your way out and you can build it your way.
It's like being a shark. Like you can't stop swimming.
Just keep swimming. Got to eat too.
Exactly, 100%, man. Thomas, man, where can we connect with you at, man? Where can we find you at if we want to stay in touch with all the? Because you have a lot of things that got going on. You're starting to do your, the networking events in person. You got the Yellow Brick stuff. You got the Total Mortgage stuff. You got investing stuff going on, man. Where can we find you? Where can we keep up with you so we can stay in touch with what you got going on?
Instagram at Thomas Bepko. That's my handle. ThomasBepko.com. Right? If you just Google my name or go to Instagram, TikTok at Thomas Bepko, LinkedIn, Facebook, everything's at Thomas Bepko. My website, Thomas Bepko, www.thomasbepko.com. Instagram is the fastest way to connect with me. Send me a message. Deals are done in the DMs, right? And listen to the podcast. I got Thomas Bepko podcast, iTunes, Spotify, and I'm social, man. Just Google me.
And so now it's time for our famous 5 questions, man. The questions we ask every guest.
Let's go.
I'm going to come in swinging heavy, man. Question number 1, what is the most impactful lesson you've learned in life?
Putting down alcohol. That is
What
the
is the
most. I was nothing. I was nothing before. I started my life over, and that was the most thing that had me impacted. Finding my spiritual connection. That last moment, that hitting rock bottom,
mm-hmm.
that a lot of motherfuckers need to get to turn around. That one. That was the most impactful.
What is the most admirable trait a person can have?
Honesty and the ability to help others. Thinking, having humility, not being humiliated, not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. Selflessness, honesty, right?
If you had to change someone's life with one book, which book would you recommend?
This is the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the only book I ever read. You believe that? No, that was the only book. Now I read. I do a lot of the audios, but for someone struggling with alcohol or drug addiction, that's the most impactful book. It's the first book I ever read.
What is the legacy that you're trying to leave behind?
I love my boys, man. One of the gifts of sobriety was being a husband, a faithful and committed husband, and an amazing, genuine father, bro. Like, family's first. And I want my kids, I want my boys to do real estate mortgage. I'm not pushing them. My wife said, dude, no, you're not going to push them. God willing, that legacy, though, live honest and meaningful. I want them to enjoy their lives. I want them to do what they want, what makes them feel good,
Yeah.
right? Whatever. My boys are happy, my family's happy, I'm good. All the money in the world can't buy that.
And for anyone that wants to embark on their walk to wealth today, what is the first step you recommend they take?
Stay consistent in being disciplined. Write down the goal and go fucking chase it, dude. That's it. And don't take no for an answer. It's what you do with the shots, bro. Life on life's terms, homie. Life's gonna throw everything at you. Curveball, sideball, screwballs, hit over the head, kicked in the middle. Like, you just gotta accept it, take it for what it is, learn from it, and keep it moving, dude. And stay on the path.
100%. Well, thanks again, Thomas. I appreciate you dropping the gems that you did, man, and all the knowledge and wisdom, man. Your story is so relatable to a lot of the stuff I went through growing up, man. So I'm glad you was able to hop on and just have this conversation with me today.
Dude, thanks for having me. I'm really excited. I was super excited today. Hopefully we can connect again. I want to do an event, and anybody wants to hit me up and you're struggling, man, at Thomas Bepko. Thanks for everything, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, let's see. It's supposed